Welcome back guys to another mainstay topic analysis where we look at scenarios often wrongly cited in context by police denying the statutory entitlement under ECHR 10 freedom of expression to take and make an image in the public domain, and often doing so to their own benefit, and often using legislation to incriminate auditors. See some of the timelined audits in the links in the description beneath the video. The discussion of course presumes that you are located on public land and have not ignored any signs of trespass, and if signage is not overt, which it should be, left when advised that the land is in fact private. The audit scenario usually begins whilst on the public highway, the pavement, and I emphasize and stress key syllables. You are filming private, personal registrations that could cause some people to feel harassed, alarmed or distressed. We will deconstruct the harassment element in a separate video on the Protection from Harassment Act 1997 and the public order offence associated with it. Before looking at an interesting piece of legislation, the display of registration marks, we will firstly set out some established fact. 1. There is a legitimate entitlement to film in a public place under ECHR 10 freedom of expression. 2. Whilst in the public domain, all registrations are required to be displayed under the Road Traffic Act. 3. The term private or personal registration means, from a DVLA perspective, something other than a standard registration. I see no legitimate reason, in my opinion, for deterring an audit or survey in the public interest on the percentage of vehicle registrations that are defective or have offences associated with them. Indeed, many forces encourage it. This provides some justification for your freedom of expression, not that you have to provide it. It is that you are undertaking a traffic survey of vehicle registration defects. We firstly look at the GDPR implications, so please keep an eye on the description for an update from the IECO on this topic. And secondly, we are going to illustrate the relevant legislation, the Road Vehicles Display of Registration Mark regulations, by looking at the underplayed importance of getting VRN displayed correctly by a case study and little quiz. We are going to consider two circumstances in the context of GDPR. In the first case, accidental inclusion of a registration does not, in the vast majority of cases, associate personal information, i.e. the data subject, with the vehicle registration, nor, in the majority of cases, can it be obtained by a private person from the DVLA. In the second case, intentional inclusion of a defective registration in a car park publicly accessible or a public place with a line of sight, and there is no element of trespass, there can be no expectation of privacy in a public place. That privacy must be created by a fence or a barrier. And if the purpose of the audit was to conduct a survey on the required lawful form of registrations within the meaning of the Road Vehicles Display regulations, then it is not appropriate to argue harassment, alarm or distress as the course of conduct to survey the prescribed form of registration, such as to comply with the law, and the intention would be within the meaning of that Harassment Act to prevent or deter a crime or offence occurring. Police officers are not above the law because they work in a police station and park in a car park. It is worth qualifying at this stage under the Protection of Harassment Act that the necessary perception is that of a reasonable person. It could be argued that a police officer working at the same site with the same interest and concerns is not that person due to the conflict of interest. Nevertheless, the test per se is that whether a reasonable person in possession of the same information would feel alarmed, harassed or distressed in a random street survey where the course of conduct is not prohibitive and not a feeling in the absence of fact. In the clips that follow, we are going to take a little observation test to illustrate the road vehicle's display of registration regulations. In the following short exposures, you will see 4 slides of a vehicle. If you can please jot down and identify the make, the model of the vehicle, its colour, whether or not the vehicle has hubcaps, and the registration number of the vehicle. So let's begin. All quiet until you finish. Okay guys, how did you do? So let's look at the problem. The vehicle has a large rusty screw placed within the D, causing the D to become a B. Coincidentally, the registrations are assigned to an identical make and model. The vehicle ZBD is not MOT'd, not insured, sworn to be off-road, and therefore has no tax, and the other, at this time of observation, is legal, but it does have an offence of the defective registration display. Let's have a closer look. Interestingly, the offence is not seen on the PNC check because it's actually on the vehicle, causing it to appear as something else. That something else is shown on the .gov screen captures, correct at the time of observation as shown. There is also some irony in the offence as it resolves to the eye or camera. All the more reason for looking. So let's look in more detail at what the road vehicle display of registration regulations specifically say. So in this instance we look at Part 2 of the Act, Regulation 11, Parts 2 to 4. For your convenience, I'll read verbatim. 11.2 states a registration plate must not be treated in any other way which renders the characters of the registration mark less easily distinguishable to the eye, or which would prevent or impair the making of a true photographic image of the plate through the medium of a camera and film or any other device. 3. A registration plate must not be fixed to a vehicle by a means of a screw, bolt or other fixing device of any type or colour, by placing a screw or bolt or other fixing device in a position or in any other manner which has the effect of changing the appearance or legibility of any of the characters of the registration mark, which renders the characters of the registration less easily distinguishable to the eye, and which prevents or impairs the making of a true photographic image of the plate through the medium of a camera or any other device. Okay guys, quite a mouthful for a relatively minor offence. Regulation 11, Section 4 gives the penalty for contravention, usually a fixed penalty fine. Most police forces require one of 2 actions from a police officer: that they either issue a level 3 fixed penalty, or, if the officer feels lenient, at discretion, a VRDN, a Vehicle Rectification Defect Notice, which gives a period of 14 days to correct the registration defect. The person responsible for the offence is the driver of the vehicle, or, if it's not being driven, the keeper. Okay guys, as we can see, there are consequences to infringement of the regulations, especially for persistent offenders. If you're intending to audit in this area, read the requirements on displaying registrations properly on a vehicle, but remember, there are always grey areas which can cause variability, such as the age criteria of the vehicle, and controversial areas such as the raised 3D registration plates. Here is a brief overview of what you could potentially identify. We will come to the end of the 10-minute topic. Please look at the links beneath the video which details auditing scenarios in this context. Okay guys, thank you very much for listening. If you have found this educational resource useful, please like and subscribe and spread the word and help get the channel off the ground. So until the next one, happy snapping!